sell it to my friends. I'm like, this is a hockey show. It is not a hockey show. I'm genuinely struggling to understand what to do with my life now that I finished this freaking show. I've had the flu since Christmas Eve, so I decided to watch Heated Rivalry, and I've watched it twice because I'm a little obsessed. I basically want to dive into like every detail about why I'm so obsessed with the show. And by the way, like everyone is obsessed with the show. It's literally everywhere. That's really fascinating to me outside of the context of this show. It's just like it's a cultural moment for the queer community. And I am dying to talk about what that is like for me as a gay person. Of course, I am not speaking for everyone in the community. I'm sure different people have different takes on things that maybe worked or didn't. I mostly loved the show, and I'm here to just sort of suck its dick, sing its praises. That's a nicer way of saying it. I want to sing its praises, and I've got like a couple of things that I would like of feedback, if you will. So I'm going to break it up into parts. Full spoilers ahead. We're gonna talk about the whole thing. If you've been watching the show and somehow haven't finished, crazy. If you found this video and somehow haven't watched the show, even crazier. Turn this off. Full stop. Okay, so we're going to talk about the show and like why everyone is obsessed with it. I do think that a great place to start is that it's hot. And like, it's a hot show, sex sells, it gets people's attention. And I just feel like that's worth saying from the outset, because especially in the first like episode or two, I feel like that is very front and center in kind of what kind of show that it is. And one thing that I love about it is as time progresses, as their relationships progress, it's far less about the sex. That's kind of like the tool they use to draw you in. The fact that the show is a gay show, it's showing a gay romance, and that is very cool and very great to see. Just like as a gay person getting to watch something, I just like seeing something that I feel represents me in any sort of tiny way. But what this show is doing is blowing my mind, because it is transcending just me as a viewer watching TV. It's this like cultural phenomenon, and everyone is watching it, and you have like straight moms like watching it and their kids are laughing and recording them like crying in the kitchen, and you have like straight dude hockey podcasters watching the show and crying. It's this beautiful, exciting, fun thing to just get to be a part of. And it's like, not only am I watching and enjoying it, but I'm knowing that like the world is watching it and they think it's hot. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Like, I grew up in a conservative, small, religious little bubble. And like the only thing I ever heard about gay people ever was just disgust, the villainy, the embarrassment of it. It was always something to be teased, laughed at, or outright villainized. You know, I'm 32 now. I've been gay I've been gay my whole life. I've been openly gay now for a little over 10 years, and it still, like, the pain and the intensity that comes from 21 years of having even the people that you love most in this world just talking shit on you. It just fucking killed a part of me that, like, I still don't really feel like I've gotten back ever. And I don't know if you ever do get that back completely. But what I will say is, moments like this are healing. Like, to have the world watching something like this that's really sexual. Like, the show does not shy away from the sex at all. It's front and center in those first couple of episodes. And what is everyone saying? Not that it's gross, not that it's evil, whatever else. They are crying. They are talking about how hot it is. They are just celebrating this show, everyone. And it's the most validating feeling in the world, because it's like, yeah, this is just like how we feel. This is just like who we are. And I absolutely love that the show is bringing that out. But one thing that's really cool is it's not just used that way. There's this sort of nice thing that happens as time goes on. You know that the characters are hooking up. They like insinuate it in certain scenes, and you don't see it nearly as much. By the later episodes, you care about them and you like them, and so you don't really need that window into them as much. You still get it in pieces, and it's still like the same show, but it's really dialed back because it's so much more about the romance. It's so much more about the connection, and it's so much more about the characters. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. The characters in the show, I am completely and wholly obsessed with. And of course, we're going to get to the main two. But I want to start out with some of the side characters because I just don't feel like they get quite as much of attention. And I think it just might be a little bit more interesting to talk about from the outset. The scenes that I cried probably like 3 times while watching the show. And 2 of the 3 of those times were with the female friends or lovers or ex-girlfriends or whatever. Elena, Rose, and Svetlana are kind of the main 3. Elena is Kip's friend. Specifically with Rose and Svetlana, these 2 are like the embodiment of like the most incredible women ever that any closeted gay guy could ever hope to be with. And I know Ilya's not gay. He's bi, which I totally get. But romantically, it seems like he's never been in love with Svetlana before. He loves her, but he's not in love with her, which I think is a feeling a lot of us in the queer community can relate to. The scene that I want to talk about is the scene with Rose in the restaurant trying to get Shane to kind of open up to her and come out to her. And that scene had me bawling my eyes out. Rose, like that, I can't finish a sentence because it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. That scene where she's talking to Shane did a number on me. And then I was very ill prepared for later in the same episode where Svetlana comes up to Ilya after that awkward ass dinner that he's having back home in Russia after his dad's funeral. And she's just like a queen. She sees this confrontation between him and his brother, and she walks in the room and she stands there to make sure nothing's happening. The brother's openly insulting her, and she's just steadfast. It's like and I think it's worth mentioning, like, she doesn't even live there anymore. Like, that's part of her life. That's part of her old life. But she lives in Boston at this point. Like, she has a different life. She doesn't need to be involved in that. But she does it because she's like ride or die for Ilya. And she's not overly possessive of him. She's not upset with him. She realizes that he's into this other person, and she just cares for him like an old friend, even though they've been at least lovers for years and years and years. And you see this early on in the show too. I thought it was so interesting because like we're introduced to Svetlana as a character with like Ilya coming home and her being there and him being surprised and almost like angry. And he's not angry. He's just, of course, like taken back, and he's trying to do his things with Shane and whatever else. And I think because of that, I had this initial idea of her of like, oh, she's just like this like girlfriend from Russia, and it made me kind of like maybe not like her from the start because she's kind of like keeping, you know, she's not doing it, but it's like her presence is theoretically keeping these 2 characters from getting together, or him being able to open up to make the thing happen that I want to see happen, right? So she's like this thing that's in the way. And what you just find out time and time again, that the one thing she is not doing is being in the way ever. She like knows every single thing about hockey. She's the one like schooling all these old guys about it. She knows Ilya like in and out and gets him away from awkward conversations and scary conversations amongst his dad and some other powerful people, and literally brings him into a bathroom to see the guy he used to hook up with. Like, she's hooking up with him on and off, and she's still like, yeah, I think that this is something going on with you, and like, here's, let me help you. Let me put this out on a silver platter for you. I'm not saying that like this is what all women should be doing. I guess what I'm saying is, when you find out, as you're finding out that you are different from seemingly everyone else in your life, the only way you're figuring this part out is like behind closed doors. It's like the things that you're watching on your computer, and then it's whether or not you ever make out with someone. And so if you don't have access to someone, you're never going to like find out. I know a lot of gay guys, they'll be like, I just knew, I always knew. And I promise you, I should have known and I would have known. But the prospect of being gay was so unbelievably terrifying to me, and it was so impossible for my brain to conceive that I literally shut it out. Like, my brain did the most insane mental gymnastics to keep myself from believing it was true for the longest time, like probably until I was like 20, I think, before I even tried to take any real action about it. And then it was just a train wreck from there for like probably 2 or 3 years before I really understood and got comfortable with everything. And like, something personally that I feel bad about, and I know I shouldn't feel bad about, but it's like, I do hate that for my journey to figure it out, there were like women along the way that I kind of had to like try things out with and experiment with and have awkward encounters with. And the amount of like emotional turmoil that put me and some others through was just exhausting. And like, then my junior year of college rolls around and I finally have someone that I can talk to, and talking, it doesn't feel quite as scary. And when they're accepting, it isn't quite as terrifying anymore. And like, that was huge for me. Absolutely huge for me. And then to see both Svetlana for Ilya and Rose for Shane be that for them, I was just like, I was brought to tears both times. Those two women are like some of my favorite side characters. I want to shout out some love to Hayden really quick, because he was a really fun character. I liked his friendship with Shane a lot. Some things that I saw floating around the internet were people being like, Shane is so, autistic coded. He's so on the spectrum, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of thought that was just the internet being the internet. And I wasn't fully like necessarily on board with that reading of him. And then I saw an interview with him and potentially the director, and they were talking about it. And I guess that is part of his character. So that must be written in the books, is that he's a little neurospicy, if you will. And, I think like in the sporting world where guys can be quite jockey and all of that stuff, it was really sweet to see this like very like happy, fun relationship with him and Hayden, like from pretty early on. And then he's always inviting Shane to stuff, and it's like family dinners. It's nothing crazy. Like, Shane doesn't like going out and partying. He doesn't like drinking. He doesn't like dancing. He doesn't seem to really like being the center of attention. And like with Hayden, he gets to go over there and have meals. They're not even sharing meals, by the way, because like Shane has this crazy specific diet. And I read that originally as like he's training because he's an athlete. And then I read some random comment online, and I wish if I knew where I read it, I would, give you credit. So I apologize for that. But someone said like how autistic kind of coded that is, because you get sort of fixated maybe on like particular types of food. And like Shane has this very specific diet, but like Hayden is never judging him. He's never really pushing him to do these things. He's going on like quiet, fun family ventures with him. They share a hotel room a lot when they're traveling, and you can see that Shane's really uncomfortable, like when he's trying to make those plans with Ilya to like meet up with him, and he's trying to do it in a way that isn't awkward, and he goes about it in the potentially most awkward way ever. And I think Hayden does just a very good job as like a friend who's like, I don't care, go have fun, go do whatever you're gonna do, blah 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 blah. Like, I just really liked their dynamic, so I wanted to show some love to him. I mentioned Elena earlier, and she gets several moments to shine. I think she's a great character. I think she was a great actor. Her big moment is when she's having that conversation with Scott at the ball, and she's sort of standing up for her friend, which I love. So no qualms there. But this kind of gets into just a little bit of my first sort of issue, and it mostly revolves around what's going on with Kip. I should preface with, like, I haven't read the books, okay? And I think genuinely, like, the book series has a lot of fans. I think the most important thing is that it's true to the source material. So if this is how it is in the books, then I think it's a great thing. And I also understand that it's kind of like these smutty books. It's like these romance heavy novels. And I think that those can sometimes be larger than life, and they can be kind of dramatic and fantastical. The Kip and Scott romance read very love bomby to me, and very overly intense and overly wild. And I've gone through things like that in the past, so it's not that it's unrealistic per se, but I think it is potentially unrealistic in the sense of a healthy, long-lasting relationship. And I'll mostly say that as it pertains to the timeline in which these two characters were getting together. Like, I think what it is like 3 months since they've met, but they're at the charity that Scott works with, that he was the benefactor of when he was 11 or 12 and his parents died in that car accident. So Elena takes him aside, and she's dancing with him, and she's being like, Kip's in love with you. He deserves better than this. You both deserve to be out. And I like that she brought it out to him too. She's like, you deserve to be out in the light and happy too. I felt an unnecessary amount of pressure on him, who is genuinely trying, obviously doesn't have a lot of experience with this, for it only being 3 months in. Like, he invited Kip to the event. It's not like Kip is sitting at home and waiting around, right? And like, also Scott leaves for away games a lot. Like, we see Ilya and Shane traveling all the time. It's the same thing for Scott. Like, he's traveling for work a lot. And there's a scene where he is gone from the house, and Kip is walking around, and his dad calls, and he's like, oh, you're alive. I've really missed you. I've been wondering where you are. And Kip's like, I know, Dad, I'm sorry, I can't come home. And I do get that it sucks that Kip can't talk to his dad, because clearly they're very close, and he would otherwise probably talk to his dad about the relationship that's going on in his life, and he doesn't feel like he can because of the fact that he's a famous hockey player. What I didn't like is then in their inevitable sort of like fight, potentially falling out, and maybe the last time they saw each other until that scene in episode 5. I don't really know. I just felt like you haven't been seeing each other very long. He's been very upfront from the start, although also very love bomby. And Kip's arguments are like, I miss my friends, I miss my dad. And it's like, yeah, go see them. Like, literally go see them. You know what I mean? It's like you were caught up in the early exciting phases of a relationship. And like, now that it's been a couple of months, take a chill pill. Maybe don't hang out and wait around the house and call your dad when he's not home. Maybe go home. If you miss your dad, spend time with your dad. That dynamic sort of drove me crazy, especially because of the timeline of it. And there was something about the way that fight went down. It just falls a little flat for me, because I really wish that maybe that confrontation would have happened months later, like months into an actual relationship. I have one other bone to pick with the show, and that unfortunately also has to do with Kip, and we'll get to that later. It's not a huge deal. I cannot stress enough how much I adore the show. While we're sort of on the subject, I guess I will talk about Scott. I really liked him. I think he's like well cast. His story of like his family was heartbreaking. He's very hot. Episode 5, we're going to get to. Episode 5 gives its own segment in this, okay? But overall, I really liked Scott. I thought their banter in the smoothie shop was cute and lame and cheesy, but believable. I felt like I was reading the dialogue in a book, but I will say that they both did a really good job. And it is their relationship and their dynamic that helps make for such an insane moment in that 5th episode that it really does make any of the fumblings that I mentioned kind of moot at that point. Okay, let's talk about the main 2 characters. I've mentioned quite a lot about Shane now, so I'll just kind of start off with him. I love this character. I think he's so cute and adorable and lovable, and I loved how quirky and awkward he is. I really deeply resonated with him. I hated watching the show and being like, damn it, that's me. That's me. Being a little weirdo freak in the corner. But I think he's so well acted. I think it's a really compelling character. Okay, I'm annoyed because my camera ran out of storage and I had to go through and delete tons of old videos, which was fine. It was something I needed to do. But I talked about this show for 30 minutes and my phone was not recording. So I lost my train of thought. So forgive me if there is a cohesion break for even just a slight moment in this video. So Shane is the character that I really resonate with the most, and not just because he's a little bit socially awkward at times, but his journey through coming out really resonated with me and really reminded me of my own, because he has loving and supporting parents. Just, it doesn't make it easy, and it doesn't make everything else go away, and it doesn't make having those conversations with your parents any easier. He was just trapped in this world and was silently stuck in it, and he had friends and community and passion and sports, but was struggling, really, really struggling, and had a lot of anxiety. And I think watching his journey from even being open to hooking up with Ilya at all, because Ilya is he's at least confident enough in his sexuality, and I think because he is attracted to women, so he's not taking on the fact that he's attracted to men as this terrifying, awful, horrible, scary thing. I think he has a little bit more self-confidence in that way, even though Russia's a much more dangerous place to be in that way. But I think Shane, me and so many queer people, it's he can't even look at this thing. He can't even confront it. He can't even look, because I think he knows deep down what it means, right? And so he's the one, he pushes Ilya away, he's the one not being very responsive. Ilya's chasing after him. And then he kind of starts to be okay with the cadence of the hooking up and whatever else. And he's sort of getting comfortable with it. And then he kind of catches the feels. And that's when Ilya's not available because of the stuff going on in his life. But I was just really, really proud of Shane, and really, really broke my heart when he goes to talk to Ilya to come out to him. He goes to his hotel room and he's really found something out about himself, and Ilya's don't talk to me about this, he's trying to prevent that level of intimacy with Shane, because he does feel it, like Shane is saying. And I'm just really proud of him for being first of all, who else am I going to talk to? So yes, I'm going to talk to you about this. He comes out to him because the only other person in the entire world who knows this is his ex-girlfriend. And not only is he brave enough to come out to Ilya in that moment, but then he kind of starts to have the confidence of pursuing him more, right? And being more open with him and being more forward. Shane starts to get what he wants. And I love that. And he invites him to the cabin, and that is my favorite episode of the show, and it gets its own segment in the video. I feel so thrown off because I lost like 30 minutes of talking. So what I've said about Shane and what I haven't said about him, good Lord. I don't even know. I'm going to regroup. Ilya is incredible. I love this character. I want to say, first of all, that Connor did an incredible job. Apparently, he didn't even know Russian before he took on this role. And not only do we get to see his, like, you know, English as a second language sort of broken communication style more towards the beginning of the show and watch his English get better and better, but still in this thick Russian accent. But we also see him just speak in Russian and do such a great job. So I just want to give kudos to him for that. That character is really cocky and confident, and at times like mean. So like I know that he's like kind of just talking shit, and he has these like really big walls up and all that stuff, and it all makes perfect sense. I think it's a very well written character, so I don't have any issues with it. It's just that it was harder for me to watch because I think I'm just a more like sensitive person. So I'm like, I don't know how Shane made it through, but I'm glad that he did, because Ilya, just like everyone, deserves love, and we see that the reason he has been such an ass in keeping everyone at a distance is like his life back home in Russia is not easy. It's like objectively hard, even though he's got all this money and fame and whatever else. It's like he has a terrible relationship with his brother. It seems like he has a lot of love for his dad, but it didn't seem like a healthy relationship, and that was well before any of the dementia issues came up. Like we're talking first episode, he's like not letting Ilya speak. It was not good. It was not okay. He, I think, suffered in silence a lot, but he also was able to like live the persona of the sports superstar like better than someone like Shane is. So he's out partying, he's out like hanging out with models and hooking up and whatever else, and he's kind of known for being a dick on the ice, and that's just him, and that's just his personality. But he really opens up, and so I don't have a ton else to say about Ilya right now, only because I believe his character really flourishes in episodes 5 and 6, and both of those get their own special spotlight. So instead of saying anything twice, I just want to cut it now and move on to the next segment of the video. Of course, I think it's amazing that you have Shane be half Japanese, and I mentioned this briefly in his character thing, but I just want to point out, like, similar to all the shit that I heard growing up about being gay, there was shit that I heard about like Asian men, and I want to be very clear that I've heard similar shitty things be echoed as an adult, like even within the gay community. It bothers me. It just really, really irritates me when someone from an already marginalized group chooses to continue the oppression and just kick the can down and say, well, I'm better than this group, even though it's crazy that these people don't think that I should be. It drives me insane. I've heard a lot of shit talked on Asian men specifically. Asian women are fetishized and Asian men are infantilized. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video. That's not what this is about. But what I will say is it's super cool to see a half Japanese person as like the limelight. He's like one of the two main characters, and he's having sex the whole show, and like it's hot and it's being celebrated. And I am really glad that that is out there for people to see. Okay, while we're on the subject of representation, this is my other nitpick, and unfortunately it has to do with Kip again. I'm really not trying to pick on the actor or anything like that. I think he did a perfectly good job. So it's not my issue with him so much. It's just that this show, like, is such a big deal, and it is a chance to represent the queer community. And like, I totally get that 3 of the 4 main characters are professional hockey players. Okay, totally get that. They are hot and they are jacked, and makes enough sense, and it totally works, and that is fine. Personally, I think it would have worked better for me if Kip wasn't also this like ripped to shit human being. Like, why the hell is the smoothie guy like arguably the like cuttest one of all of them? They could have made him a personal trainer if they wanted to go down that route. I like that they were trying to do an art school thing, that they were trying to do a service industry thing. I liked that. And I think it would have worked better for me personally if Kip had gotten to be like a skinnier Twinkie looking guy, or if he got to be like a bigger guy, like more of like a bear, or if he got to be a person of color, like him also being white. Like, it just makes, there's 4 main gay characters and now 3 of them are white. I feel like it was an opportunity for more representation because he exists outside the sporting world, and we didn't really get it. And that's fine. And episode 5 still slaps. Sorry to all the Kip lovers. He is the smoothie king. He's hot. Objectively, great. Fine. Whatever. We're moving forward. All right, I've been spending all this time ragging about Kip, and now's the time to give him and Scott and everyone else their flowers, because all of episode 5 just needs its own segment. This episode has a 100% on IMDb and is like one of the highest rated episodes of TV ever on Rotten Tomatoes and all of these outlets. Like, everyone collectively loves episode 5. And of course, that explosive moment at the end is what makes it and what draws it all together. And it absolutely deserves that. And I myself cried and got overwhelmed, and it was this very lovely moment. But the entire episode is so good. That's where you get that conversation between Rose and Hollander and Svetlana and Ilya, while also like these two are really starting to come together for the first time in the show. I believe it's episode 4 that Ilya had Shane over, and they hook up and he makes him the tuna melts, and then Shane ends up getting overwhelmed and freaking out and leaving. Been there. But up to this point, like, they just keep missing each other. And episode 5 is where we really finally get to see them connecting. Like, them on the beach when they're sitting there talking to each other and they start to hold hands. It's where, Shane comes out to Ilya. There's just so many good moments, and they're communicating for the first time. And you have that phone call from Ilya from Russia, and Shane is just like, if it'll help, you can speak in Russian and just get some things off your chest. I want to listen. And Ilya has that whole rant, and it's just beautiful. He's in this dark tunnel. He's like hiding out from his family. He's in Russia. The presence of danger is in the background. Like, you see police lights in the background, and he's just trapped. And he's in love with Shane. And even though he can't say that to him yet, he says it to him in Russian over the phone. And it's so cathartic as a viewer, because you've been watching them now for several episodes. But for them, it's been years. Like, it's been 7 or 8 years for them in their world. And I can't imagine. Now these two are really connecting. They're FaceTiming, they're saying so much more to each other than they ever have. And then Shane's at home. He's injured from that hockey match, which this will be a tiny little tangent. It was so funny to me because when I was watching the show with my friend, and when that scene starts, right, they're playing hockey against each other, and I was like, oh my god, I almost forgot it was a hockey show for a second. I can't believe we're actually watching like a hockey match. And then Shane gets wiped out, and like my friend gasped. She was like devastated. She screams, and I just started laughing because I'm a sick fuck, and also because like there was no hockey. It lasted like 10 seconds, and then he got wiped out, and then there was no more hockey again. So I just thought that was kind of funny. I sell it to my friends. I'm like, this is a hockey show. It is not a hockey show, but the hockey is fun when it happens. Anyway, speaking of the hockey, the big moment of that episode is when Scott, who is like an aging athlete, right, and well past his prime, and a lot of it you hear just like sports commentators and everyone else kind of talking shit on him, which It felt a little bit like the first season of Ted Lasso, where Roy Kent is like this massive player. He's like this huge icon, and he's very well loved, but he's kind of like past his prime, and he knows that, and his teammates know that, and you've got these like younger teammates coming in and talking shit, and Scott, it's very subtle, it's very in the background because sports is not the highlight of this show, but I did like that we got that about Scott's character, and so it was really cool to see him win the cup in that last episode. Like that in and of itself is like this huge cathartic moment. And then the music starts playing, and you just know it's going to happen, but you can't believe it. And the whole thing just swells to this huge, amazing moment where he calls Kip down and they get together. And I know that I said I had my issues in terms of like the way that their dynamic and their relationship was portrayed. I stick to that. I do like that they got highlighted for a whole episode. I think it made that moment in episode 5 hit that much harder. And for all of my critiques that I have, I do really think that that last moment like landed slam dunk. I watched an interview with the director talking about how like that scene was like, like 10 years of work in his mind of like, I'm going to take everything I've ever learned from filming, because he wanted to make that like the biggest moment of the show. And he had like the song picked out from forever ago. And so then he was like sprinkling in lyrics from the song throughout the show. And like he just did so much work to make that moment be as huge and impactful as it is. And it is. It is incredible. It is beautiful. It was so amazing to watch. And then you just get the cherry on top. You're stuffed. You don't think that you could possibly even handle anything else. And then you get that moment of, Ilya and Shane watching it. And they are like, their minds are being blown as well. At the same time that our minds are being blown, it's like we're sharing this experience with them. And then, Ilya runs off to call Shane, and Shane jumps up and answers the phone call, and you just get one of my favorite lines from the entire show. And it is, "I'm coming to the cottage." And I simply died. When I tell you that I couldn't wait, like episode 6 was already out by the time I was watching this show. So like I had to wait the 5 seconds between one episode ending and the next episode starting, and I was unable to cope. I was like, why is this not starting immediately? It felt like an eternity. So for anyone who waited for episode 6, I don't know how you did it. I would like to maybe take self-discipline lessons from you. Okay, I think this is the best episode of the show, hands down. For me, episode 6 is where it just like it all comes together, and it was a really perfect and beautiful ending to this season. It's a much slower sort of episode and slower vibe than we're used to getting with these characters. Like we're used to a lot of montages and a lot of cuts, a lot of time jumps, right? Because there'll be like entire seasons where they're just kind of seeing each other occasionally, maybe even not seeing each other. But like not this one. We like sit with it the whole time. Like we're there with Shane when he picks Ilya up at the airport, and we drive with them to the cottage, and we are in that cottage the whole time until, his dad sees him and finds out. And then we're with them at the parents' house, and then we are with them as they are driving off into the sunset. And for a show that showed us 8 years of activity and 5 episodes, it is crazy to see less than 2 weeks within one. It is everything that I loved about episode 5, but just amplified that much more. Like Ilya and Shane are getting closer than ever before, and there are just so many wonderful moments between them. Like one of my personal favorite is when they're out by the fire, and first of all, Ilya is hilarious. Connor is like really funny, and that scene where they're at the fire and he keeps hearing the loon calls and is freaking out, like so good. At the beginning he's like, so what do? We just stare at it? They don't really get the chance to just sit still very often, and so they're there, and it almost seems like Ilya's just making fun of sitting there and looking at the fire, and then and then it cuts, and the next scene is like him or resting his head in Shane's lap, and he's just staring at the fire. Loved this moment of like he's teasing him for something that he maybe thinks is stupid or like he won't like or appreciate, and then he's loving it. And even when the loon call happens again and freaks him out again, and Shane's like, do you want to go inside? He's like, no, I don't want to go outside. He's finally out there. He's finally exposed. He's finally opening up, and he's finally getting to talk to someone who's actually listening, who he actually trusts. And that's what he's found with Shane. And that's the scene that we get to hear him talk about his mom. It's a really sad and also really emotionally powerful scene. Like Ilya kind of cracks wide open there. And the version that we get of him moving forward with that episode feels like a transformed, realized version of the character that we've now been watching for 5.5-ish episodes. He has opened up. They're like swimming outside, and he asks for a kiss. And by the time they get to his parents' house, you know, he's like really loving and supportive to Shane. I also really love, again, sort of like Shane's tenacity. His character arc for me is just all about how he is getting more comfortable with who he is and about getting what he wants. And I really like that in this episode, how he gets what he wants is like being a lot more assertive. I like that he was assertive about the cottage in the first place. Like that's the only reason that they're finally doing it. But also assertive about them being open and honest with each other. He's assertive when he's like, don't marry Svetlana. Like we will figure something out. Please just don't do it. And then that night he wakes up in the middle of the night and is like, I have this great idea. I'm going to figure it out. Like we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. And we'll only be 2 hours away from each other and we still don't have to come out, but we can spend more time with each other. And it's like, that's how my brain works. And it is a gift and it is a curse. And I was just really proud of him for saying those things. It's a very vulnerable position to be in. And he was in a very precarious situation, I think, going into that trip. But he's just coming more and more and more into his own until, of course, his parents find him, which is just another reason why I love this episode to death, because there's a lot of sweet moments with his parents, but we also just finally get that big breath of air of like some people in their lives have their backs and they know about them and they are loving towards them. There's like this innocence that happens. I think we all can relate to this. When you get like stuck with your parents, sometimes there's just this like immaturity and this funny weirdness that comes out, right? This like teenaged angst. We just like fall back into the roles that we were in before. And it's like so funny to me that Shane comes into his house and it's like, they're like little kids who are in trouble and they're just like these adult professional hockey players. And it's so funny to me. I think it's my favorite scene in the whole show is when they're kind of talking about plans and Shane's mom starts to get back into like mom manager mode. And she's like, okay, I'm going to reach out to these brands and they're going to be great with the fact that you're gay. You know, it's going to take some convincing, but I actually think they're really going to like it and blah, blah, blah. And like he got to have his like, you know, loving, supporting moments with his parents for a few minutes. And then it was like all of a sudden back to his career, back to hockey, back to sponsorships, back to how he's going to make money, what his image is going to be, what his brand is going to be, coming out to everyone. And it's like, this isn't necessarily what he wants yet. Like he hasn't asked for this. He's not saying this. Like he wasn't even ready to come out to them yet. He was trying to just have a weekend with Ilya. They just finally had enough conversations in order to not make that conversation with his parents a total disaster. I felt overwhelmed and stressed by his mom's response of talking about sponsorships already. I struggle with anxiety. I get quite anxious, and it is overwhelming in a way that is debilitating at times. And I've been working on it, and I continue to work on it. I just, once again, saw myself in Shane. He gets completely overwhelmed. He's at the dinner table with them, and he's laying down, and he's just sort of like, I just need a minute. I just like need a minute. And Ilya's over there like stuffing his face with pasta, which is hysterical, and is like, hey, you're okay. Like, everyone's here. Everyone's got you. And he's like, your boyfriend's got you. And I was like, oh my God, did he just say boyfriend? A huge deal. And he's just like holding the back of Shane's neck. And then Shane gets up because he hears it too. And then he just gives him a little kiss on the cheek. And I'm just like, boys, I hope you're taking notes. This is all that it takes. Like, when someone is getting really anxious, it's not that it's necessarily your responsibility, but like, oh my God, what 5 seconds of like tenderness and care will do is insane. It's night and day. And just like seeing that moment with Shane getting overwhelmed and with Ilya being supportive and with his parents being there and like exchanging loving glances about it, it just made me so happy. And then I can't remember exactly. I've watched the show twice, but I can't remember. I think one of the last scenes is when Shane goes out to talk to his mom. And those scenes always get to me. The part that really worked for me or reminded me of myself is the part where he's just like, Mom, I really tried, like I really tried. And I feel like that's how I felt like when I came out. I was so concerned about how I was going to be perceived. And I was so concerned about all the people around me leaving me that I was like, maybe they'll know that if I tried everything and if I worked so hard and I tortured myself literally at times to try to be something that I wasn't, and it nearly killed me. And he's just there with his mom and he's like, I tried. And she's like, oh, like, you don't need to try. Like, there's nothing you need to do to be anything different about who you are. And it is just a sentiment that I love and adore, and it will get me every time. So one thing that you might not know if you're just now coming to Heated Rivalry, let's say that you're straight and you just haven't watched a whole lot of queer media, this might not be something that you are aware of, but there is kind of a trope in movies called like bury the gays, bury the dead, bury your queers. I can't believe I'm blanking on it, but the thing is, so much of queer media ends in horror stories. It ends in death and or breakups and sadness and tragedy. It is, I think, true to life for a lot of queer people that's the kind of lives that they've had to live. But there's also a lot of joy and a lot of beauty and a lot of fun in this world. And especially now in this day and age, I think it gets to just be experienced more and more by more people around the world. And to have a story that's not only as popular as this is, as celebrated as this is, as sexual and sexy as this is, we're also getting this show that has a happy ending. Like, we get to see the characters that we have loved and grown with over the past 6 episodes literally drive off into the sunset. It doesn't happen a lot at all. And it's another thing that I just had to mention, and goes without saying that like makes this show so special. So yeah, the episode closes with them driving away. They say bye to the parents and they drive away. And I immediately was like, is this show getting more? It absolutely needs to get more. Thank God it's been greenlit already for seasons 2 and 3. Apparently there are multiple books. I guess I'm probably going to get the books. I feel like I would like to read it, but part of me wants to like see this version of it through to the end and then maybe go back and read the books. Cause there's always this weird thing that happens. Like when you read the book and then you're comparing it when you're watching the show versus like this time I just got to experience the show for what it was and love it. And part of me kind of wants to just keep doing that. And then if I still want to read the books by the time I finish the show, then it can kind of exist as its own separate thing instead of like getting ideas about what I want seasons 2 and 3 to look like, more so than I already will. Because I'm going to have 1,000,001 little things to say and think about. But I just want to close out this video. Okay, if you've made it through this whole video, wow. I really can't thank you enough. I have been really interested in making YouTube videos for a long time. About a year and a half ago, I started to make a channel because I watched the show Young Royals, and I got kind of equally obsessed with it as I am with this show now. And I started making a whole long video essays similar to this on that show, and had hours of footage, was editing the footage, and then my laptop blew up and I lost everything, and didn't end up going back to it. So getting to do this video on a similarly great queer TV show that I'm obsessed with is a fun thing to finally get to be doing and have up on my channel. It's different than everything else that I've got up there, but I hope to kind of do some more of this in the future. If you're curious, I'd really appreciate you subscribing and or checking out the rest of what I got going on the channel. I want more stuff to be like this in the future and a little less vloggy stuff like I've done in the past. But if you're curious, I think it's worth checking out. I absolutely adored the show, and I hope that you did as well. If you want to talk about your experience and how you related to the show, if you have any critiques about the show that I didn't mention, like, I'm really just talking about it from my perspective, the couple of things that I noticed, but like, I'm a gay guy, but I'm like, and there's only so many things maybe that I'm going to pick up on. So if there's other things about the show that you think could be improved upon, I'd be curious to know what they are legitimately. So anyway, sound off in the comments if you're still here. I'd be curious to know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females made you just to trick me, trick me, trick me, trick me. 'Cause baby girl, you are so easily pretty. The only reason that I can do tonight is 'cause I know you were invited. The only reason that this dress is skin tight is 'cause I thought that you would like it. I'm only gone for the secret outside.